30 WBVP, also streaming at beavercountyradio.com.
All right. It is streaming. I just don't have the video capture. I clicked on the wrong thing. And please look and make sure that the microphones for the cameras aren't on, because that's what got jacked up last time.
Turn your head side to side. If you had less than 39 degrees of that motion, you'd have a 9 times increased likelihood of an injury. So these intrinsic factors are both measurable and modifiable. So as a physical therapist, I can take a baseball player or any kind of athlete, I can do my tests on
I'm
them
supposed to be over
and
here.
see if they're
Jesus
within normal limits
Christ.
or outside of normal limits. And based on research that
Did
we've
you
done,
see the
we can tell if there's a
movie
likelihood of injury
Days
or
of
not.
Thunder?
If you need physical therapy,
You remember the Robert Duvall line?
choose the place
Yeah.
your
We
brain
look like
is
monkeys.
MRS Physical Therapy.
That's what today has felt like all morning.
MRSphysicaltherapy.com. Teleforum is on the air
Um,
on Beaver County Radio.
You most likely will need to grab stuff off Bill, because I timed. Do you have your news? Or do you?
Yes.
So you can do it from there.
Eddie Crow.
I knew it was gonna be a busy day. I knew it was gonna be a good day. Each day that Dale shows up, it just goes quicker with a smile, and more often than not, a little bit sweaty. Dale Reckless, my guest the first hour, Dale Reckless of MRS Physical Therapy. This will be live streamed. That's the question every morning when you come in. You got me doing stuff or no? Yep, okay.
9 times out of 10, we have you doing something.
I know it, and I don't mind it, and
Yeah.
people make light of it and watch it on videos and mock me, and we can do that. What are we doing today?
I'm still waiting for for someone to create a meme that goes viral with one of the things that we did with you. I'm not sure that's happened yet. That's kind of my goal.
I learned as a kid in science class, anything viral was bad, so if it works out for you, okay, I'm willing to be a part of it.
But now viral makes money, right? When we were kids, viral was bad, but now viral makes money.
Well, not always. Depends on your version of the national anthem. Not all, yeah.
True.
Sometimes it makes you money, sometimes it sends you to rehab. So, but I'll do it. If you want me to do something to make MRS Physical Therapy viral, I'm in.
All right, sounds
All right.
good.
Are we doing that today? Is this the juggling show?
There's always a chance and an opportunity to make something go viral, so you never know what's going to
That's
happen.
true.
You never know what's going to stick, right? So
Right.
yeah.
All right.
So we do have some demonstration today. So if you're listening in, that's fantastic. Thanks for joining us. If you have the opportunity to pull up Facebook and watch us on Facebook Live, either on the WBVP site, we also have it running Facebook Live on our MRS Physical Therapy and Cranberry Physical Therapy Facebook page. You'll get to see some of the things that could become viral. Maybe you'll see them live.
Say, I saw that happen when it actually happened.
That's right.
And for the people that, for whatever reason, can't watch it right now, you do an excellent job of play-by-play. You could be a
We try to
play-by-play
do some
guy.
good color commentaries.
You
good
paint-
play-by-play work, yeah.
The term is paint the picture. You paint the picture.
Yeah.
And he's sweating now, it's kind of gross. All right, you brought in what I call a pelican case, a hard shell case. What that indicates is whatever's in it is not cheap.
It's not cheap.
Okay.
It costs some money for this.
That's part of what we're doing today. What's the topic?
So today we're going to talk about a number of different things. I have a couple of focus areas things that we do at MRS Physical Therapy. But the thing that we're going to test you on is your grip strength. And we've talked about grip strength in the past, but there's some new tests that we started to do at MRS Physical Therapy as we started to do a lot more sports-related physical therapy in both our Bridgewater, Cranberry office, as well as the new clinic we just opened up, which is the Cranberry Physical Therapy Sports Clinic, also in Cranberry Township. So we have a new emphasis on sports that we've done. We've done sports over the years, but this is a really strong emphasis on sports, and these are things that not many places are doing, which is really a cool opportunity for us at MRS Physical Therapy, but even a better opportunity for those in the community with kids, young adults, and even adults can do this sports testing as well. We call them athleticism profiles, where we've developed testing protocol for all different types of sports, whether it's baseball or volleyball or ice hockey, or maybe you're a CrossFit person and you just want to see what your athleticism ability is. For each one of these types of sports, we've created an athleticism profile that we can run down. They're not all the same. They're sport specific. For example, a volleyball or basketball player, we want to test your vertical, your jump. But we're not going to do that for all athletes. Not all athletic sporting events require you to have a good vertical. Surprisingly, a lot do, which you don't think about all the time. But we definitely include, our soccer players. Why do they have to jump? Well, when they head the ball, they jump up in the air, right?
Mm-hmm.
Things like that. Why do baseball players? Why does a baseball player need a good vertical? Well, you're jumping up trying to catch that high fly ball to prevent a home run.
That line drive.
Not everyone thinks about the importance of a vertical jump, but we do a lot of vertical testing. And we actually, this past weekend, we were a vendor at Cranberry Community Days, which is a huge event out in Cranberry Township. They had, thousands and thousands of people come out for that. And we tested a couple hundred people in their vertical for free. They just came by our booth and we tested vertical. Most of these people are coming by and they've never tested it before, even though they're athletes. Some are little kids, they had a lot of fun with it. Some are high school athletes, some are college athletes.
Nobody rolled up looking like me saying, watch this, I got a 40-inch vertical.
Well, yeah. So
of course
I
it did.
I tested all ages, and
Uh-huh.
everyone wanted to get it tested because it's a pretty cool test to do. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And most people don't ever get it tested, which is a shame because vertical is a test of your power in your legs. Doesn't matter how tall you are, doesn't matter how high you jump. It's actually a measure of the difference between the two, how high you reach compared to how high you jump.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a measure, that's called your standing vertical, and that's what we tested. And your standing vertical is actually a measure of the power in your legs. And why that's so important for people to test is because as you get taller, you're obviously going to be able to jump higher. So just jumping, up to hitting the rim of the basketball, who isn't really a measure of your improvement, just means you're getting taller. But when we measure your power, that's what we're working towards when we do sports performance. And a lot of people do sports performance and they're working out, they want to get better at what they do.
Mm.
But if they're never measuring it, they don't have a baseline of what their power is, then they really don't know the effectiveness of their workout sessions. They don't know the effectiveness of their sports performance program. So that's why this sports performance testing that we're doing is so important, because it gives you a baseline. In addition to giving you a baseline to work off of, a lot of the tests that we've now developed are working on mitigating your risk of injury. So we're able to identify areas of tightness or weakness that you might not be aware of, because these tests are pretty high-level tests. I've tested some really high-level athletes that did not fully pass the test because we found some areas of weakness that they weren't aware of. That could be core-related, flexibility-related in their hip flexors or their shoulders or things like that. And we've specifically designed tests to a sport. So we do baseline testing, and this testing also helps to mitigate risk of injury. But I was really tempted to bring my vertical machine today, Eddie.
As soon as you started talking about vertical, I looked around and it's like, I don't see the big stick
your
with the
ceiling
rulers.
here is probably just about high enough for me to test a vertical in here. So I might bring it by one of these days. But it is a little cumbersome to carry around. But I really want to test your vertical one of these days.
It's the big stick with the ruler sticking out, and how many rulers can
That's
you
right.
move, right?
Yeah. How many of those tabs you
did it in
jump.
college.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that, because a lot of people have never done it before.
Yeah.
I'm amazed at the number of college athletes that are like, I've never tested my vertical before.
Mhm.
This just means people are paying attention. They need to be doing this.
And you
and
talk
we now
about a
offer it.
baseline?
Yep, and we now offer it at Emrys Physical Therapy. So that's what's really cool.
That was part of it. When you showed up after you went home for summer,
Yeah.
that was part of the baseline stuff that you did.
Yeah.
All right, that was this season's, there's your baseline on that. Now we're gonna work and make it better.
Yeah, and it's not a cheap piece of equipment. Some people test their vertical with putting sticky notes on the wall or chalk on their hands, and they measure it that way. It's very rudimentary to do it that way. Really using the vertical machine that we have, it really gives you an actual number, an actual baseline that you're working from when you do it. So. Yeah, but what I did bring today is the grip strength tester. So at the Cranberry Community Days, I was also testing grip strength. And grip strength can tell you a ton of information. It seems like a very simple test, and really it is a simple test. It takes a piece of equipment, and there's different pieces of equipment out there. Our piece of equipment, like you said, is in a hard shell. It's a rather high-end piece of equipment because it's accurately calibrated and gives you a true number.
You didn't get it from Kimu.
No, so some of the equipment out there is, they're junk and they're not really that accurate. But the equipment that we use is very accurate, scientifically based and calibrated, so that it gives you an accurate number. But what grip strength can tell you, and grip strength really has a lot of great statistical information. So they've researched grip strength on people, from as young as 6 years old all the way up to 80, 90 years old, and we have a lot of great statistical information. So grip strength can tell you a lot of information about yourself, whether you're a young individual, an up-and-coming athlete, or you're an older individual that's starting to lose your grip. There's actually valid data and research that compares your grip strength to your longevity of life, which we've done that in the past here. There's normative data.
This test just got a lot more serious, so my number's going to tell me how long I'm alive.
I think we called it the death grip test last time we did this. But really, we just have normative data that compares to your age level, and also we have nice numbers that we can compare for athletes. So the grip strength is so important. They teach this, they test this in like the NHL Combine, the MLB Combine, the NFL Combine, because people realize grip strength is an indicator of many different things, but it's a lot of it's power, and power is required for your sporting activity. So it's kind of surprising, and I brought some of these numbers with me because this is what I had out at the Cranberry Community Days. So the average grip strength for the NHL is 129 pounds to be an NHL athlete. For the MLB athlete, the average grip strength is between 160 and 180 pounds, which is a huge amount of grip strength. But you think about what's required. You have to really grip onto that bat. These are really strong guys, good upper body strength and development. But those are really high numbers. Like, for example, at the Cranberry Community Days, no one came close to that MLB grip strength. Some people got the NHL grip strength. My highest was about 148 that I tested on the weekend. And then
that's 148 pounds of pressure being created by squeezing your hand.
That's right. And women's softball was about 80 pounds average for college athletes. So there's normative data for grip strength for athletes as well as the average everyday person. You can put yourself wherever you want in that category, Eddie, when we test your grip strength today.
Do you have the numbers for the chess club? Because that's what I'm shooting for chess club numbers. Okay,
we're just going to go by your age today when we test you out.
Double digits.
But the other thing is with grip strength, it has some really interesting information. Which these are components that we just started testing with our athletes because there's really good information on this now. That we're going to test you with your arm by your side. Which most people when they do grip strength, they do it just by their side with their arm by their side with the elbow at 90 degrees. But we're also going to test you in a throwing position, which means your shoulder and your elbow at 90 degrees. So
squeezing.
If you're just listening at home, imagine you're like throwing a baseball or football. So your shoulder is at a 90-degree angle from your body and your elbows at 90 degrees. We're going to do there. And then we're going to do straight up overhead, reaching towards the ceiling. So interesting, statistically, your overhead strength reaching towards the ceiling should be about 2% more than when it's by your side. So these are numbers we look at and we expect to see, especially in our athletes. So a good story I have is I recently tested a baseball athlete, a 17-year-old kid with some shoulder issues. He had some shoulder soreness, some shoulder pain. And I was shocked how weak his good side was compared to his other side. Good side being his dominant side. He was right-handed, thrower. Left side being the non-dominant side, the side that he doesn't throw with. But his throwing arm was about half the grip strength of what his non-throwing arm was because he had some shoulder issues. So just because he had some shoulder issues, it affected his grip strength tremendously. And then when I put him in the position with the arm overhead, with the arm straight reaching overhead, so for example, his non-dominant side, his left side was about 90 pounds of grip strength. And this is a younger high school kid, so he hasn't really developed a lot of strength yet. So with his arm by his side, it was about 90 pounds on the good side, and when he put it overhead, it was about 92 on his. On his left side, which was his non-injured side. On his dominant side, his right side, which should have been stronger, when his arm was by his side, it was about 70 or 80 pounds, which was less than his
non-dominant side.
The non-dominant side. We shouldn't see that. So that was my first red flag. Like something's going on here, more than just a shoulder. We need to pay attention to his strength in his hand. But when he put his arm over his head, his first pull was about 80 pounds. His second pull was about 78 pounds. His third pull, because we test 3 times for each one, was 50 pounds.
Wow.
So as he
as he went through those 3 tests, his last test was significantly less, which told me that his arm was fatiguing as he was trying to hold it up over his head.
It shouldn't
because
drop
he had
like
that
that.
shoulder pathology. It should not drop like that. His left side was consistent all the way through, all 3 grips within 1 or 2 pounds of each other. But his side that was bothering him dropped off significantly. So when we do our testing with our athletes, we're doing this grip strength testing. And as we get better, I just retested him again yesterday, and he's doing a ton better. So the difference between the 3 grips was a lot closer. He didn't drop down like he did when we treated him 2 weeks ago. Just in that 2-week time frame, treating his shoulder, we were able to get him up to about 80% of his non-dominant side, and so he's continuing with physical therapy till we get him stronger the way he should be on his dominant side compared to his non-dominant side.
How much more dominant should the dominant side be? 10%?
Well,
15%?
yeah. So we see a lot of patients that are pretty close, but you want to see probably about a 10% increase difference between your dominant versus non-dominant side. You definitely don't want to see weaker on your dominant side. When I see weaker on the dominant side versus non-dominant, then that's a concern. If it's equal, that's not a problem. But if it's weaker on the dominant side, then there's probably something going on. And people that come by, that I was testing, like I said, I tested hundreds and hundreds of people on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at Cranberry Community Days. Sometimes they would have some kind of hand issue. They had carpal tunnel surgery. Sometimes there's an orthopedic reason and ration why they're a little weaker because they haven't fully recovered yet. But they should definitely get back to being stronger on their dominant side with physical therapy. And that's what we do at MRS Physical Therapy. We want to return them back to within normal limits, stronger on their dominant side. And when we do this sports testing, we now have a baseline before they get injured. So we know what to expect to get them back to. So this individual that is tested that's a baseball athlete, I'm not sure because we didn't start baseline with him. I'm not sure how much percentage we expect to get back, whether he's going to be equal on the dominant versus non-dominant, or it's going to be 10% more. We're just going to we're going to get him as strong as we can to without any pain, without any limitations, to throwing normally again. So he can, he's an outfielder, so he has to throw the ball really far. These are the kind of things to look for. But when we have the opportunity, which we're promoting now, to do these baseline testing, then we will now have measures to compare you to. So you do a baseline test, you happen to get injured sometime in that year, you come back to see us for therapy, we can say, okay, this is what we need to get back to. So now we have these baseline measures. If you don't have baseline measures, then you're just kind of guessing. And what we say is if you're not assessing, you're guessing. So we really have to assess these individuals pre-sport, pre-participation to know what our goal is to get back to.
Dale Reckless is my guest, MRS Physical Therapy. After the news, I'll get tested to find out how long I'm going to live. It's Teleforum on Beaver County Radio. Here's Dale Reckless from MRS Physical Therapy as he explains the importance of pre-sports testing to help you reduce the risk of injury.
The intrinsic factors are looking at things within our body that could be causing the problem. So that we start to look at as physical therapists, shoulder range of motion, forces at the elbow, things like that. We're looking at the whole kinetic chain. For example, turning your head side to side. If you have less than 39 degrees of that motion, you have a 9 times increased likelihood of an injury. So these intrinsic factors are both measurable and modifiable. So as a physical therapist, I can take a baseball player or any kind of athlete, I can do my tests on them and see if they're within normal limits or outside of normal limits. And based on research that's been done, I can tell if there's a likelihood of injury or not.
If you need physical therapy for any reason, choose the place your friends and neighbors do. MRS Physical Therapy in Bridgewater and Cranberry. Visit mrsphysicaltherapy.com.
When accidents and injuries happen, you need the experience and insight of the legal team at Luxenberg, Garbett, Kelly & George. Since 1934, they've been committed to the physical and financial recovery of personal injury victims. Attorney Larry Kelly.
At Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George, we have a culture. And that culture is that we're not going to get out-lawyered. We're going to make sure that we know the law as well as anybody. You don't even have an idea what facts are important until you know the law. Once we identify the law, we know what facts will determine the outcome of this case, and then we go out and investigate those facts to make sure that we have a factual pattern that is supported by the law that could lead to a successful outcome for our clients.
For your initial consultation, call the law firm of Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George at 724-658-8535 or online at lgkg.com. Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George, keeping promises for over 80 years.
Lincoln Park Performing Arts Center in Midland and PA Cyber present Pure Black and Gold Oldies in the Main Stage Theater. One show only, Friday, July 26th at 7 p.m. Starring three of Pittsburgh's most iconic oldies groups, the Skyliners, the Jaggers, and Pure Gold. Tickets start at just $18. Get yours now at LincolnParkArts.org. Pure Black and Gold Oldies, July 26th at Lincoln Park. Sponsored by the Beaver 95.7 and 1460 WMBA.
You're listening to Beaver County Radio, coming to you live from the Fried Transportation Studios. Beaver County Radio and Fried Transportation, a winning team. 99.3 FM and WBVP, providing news, sports, and information for 76 years.
Beaver County Radio's news source, 95.7 and 99.3 FM, along with 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, and streaming at beavercountyradio.com. Here's Curtis Walsh.
Good morning on this Wednesday, July the 17th of 2024. We can expect a high of about 80 degrees today with some rain showers and possible thunderstorms throughout the afternoon heading into the evening. We'll have a complete Beaver County radio weather forecast after we take this look at news. Lawyers say few people ultimately opted out of the $600 million class action settlement Norfolk Southern offered to people affected by last year's East Palestine train derailment. The plaintiff's attorneys said in a filing Monday that only 173 of the more than 190,000 households in the area around the derailment opted out of the deal. A handful of people filed formal objections. They believe they didn't have enough time to decide on that it's not fair that some of the people who were most affected by the derailment could wind up with the smallest settlements. The Community College of Beaver County will be hosting a community day to invite residents to the campus and highlight career pathways. Last year was the first time CCBC hosted Community Day in over a decade. They say they're excited to bring the event back to the campus again and to celebrate the community that makes their organization possible. Local businesses, nonprofits, college affiliates, politicians, and other community resources will be in attendance, along with all CCBC schools and departments. It was announced this morning that the PIAA Board of Directors is expected to hold its annual summer meeting. The board will be considering changing the competitive balance rule, which would affect how schools are classified when it comes to competition. The meeting is happening just a day after the Pennsylvania Commonwealth Court heard the case between PIAA and Aliquippa over its football classification. Aliquippa has continued their fight against being moved up to 5A under the PIAA's competitive balance rule. The Department of Homeland Security's Inspector General says it's investigating the U.S. Secret Service's handling of security for former President Donald Trump on the day a gunman tried to assassinate him at a Butler County rally. The agency said in a brief notice on its website this morning that the objective is to evaluate the Secret Service's process for securing former President Trump's July 13th campaign event. No date was given for when the investigation was launched. The shooting has raised questions about how the gunman was able to climb onto a roof with a clear line of sight to the former president who was injured. President Joe Biden already had directed an independent review. Federal transportation officials are providing $5 billion to replace or improve aging bridges in 16 states. The grants that were announced today by President Joe Biden's administration came from a $1 trillion infrastructure package he signed into law in 2021. The largest project provides an additional $1.4 billion to help replace two bridges in Oregon and Washington. Other projects receiving $500 million include here in Pennsylvania. More than 42,000 bridges across the U.S. are in poor condition, and they are on average 70 years old. And the Mirage is about to vanish from the Las Vegas Strip. The iconic tropical island-themed hotel casino that reshaped an industry and sparked a resort building boom closes today. Its new operators, Hard Rock International and Florida-based Seminole Gaming, are planning a 3-year renovation. They will replace the resort's fire-spewing sidewalk-side volcano with a bright new guitar-shaped hotel with 600 rooms. They say Hard Rock Hotel and Casino Las Vegas will open in 2027. Our newscast this hour is being brought to you by MRS Physical Therapy.
Here's Dale Reckless from MRS Physical Therapy as he explains the importance of pre-sports testing to help you reduce the risk of injury.
The intrinsic factors are looking at things within our body that could be causing the problem. So that we start to look at as physical therapists, shoulder range of motion, forces at the elbow, things like that. We're looking at the whole kinetic chain. For example, turning your head side to side. If you have less than 39 degrees of that motion, you have a 9 times increased likelihood of an injury. So these intrinsic factors are both measurable and modifiable. So as a physical therapist, I can take a baseball player or any kind of athlete, I can do my tests on them and see if they're within normal limits or outside of normal limits. And based on research that's been done, I can tell if there's a likelihood of injury or not.
If you need physical therapy for any reason, choose the place your friends and neighbors do. MRS Physical Therapy in Bridgewater and Cranberry. Visit mrsphysicaltherapy.com.
Here's the Beaver County forecast.
Cloudy and a bit cooler today, with showers and thunderstorms expected off and on through the day into the evening. We'll see a high near 79. Partly cloudy tonight with a low around 72. A great day in store for us tomorrow with mostly sunny skies. Look for a high near 79 and an overnight low of about 55. More sunshine on Friday with a high near 81. And another sunny day in the forecast for Saturday. A high near 85 is expected. I'm Lisa Marie with your Beaver County weather.
On this Wednesday, July the 17th of 2024, at 35 minutes past 9, we've got a temperature of 76 degrees with cloudy skies in Beaver County. That's a look at the news for now. I'm Curtis Walsh on 99.3 FM and AM 1230 WBVP, also streaming live around the world at beavercountyradio.com.
Talk about what's happening in Beaver County or around the world on Teleforum. 724-843-1888. 724-774-1888. It's Teleforum with Eddie Crow.
Today is big day. Any day Dale Reckless shows up, it's a big day. This is being live Facebook fed, so you can watch what's going on. But Dale Reckless of MRS Physical Therapy is my guest this first hour, and I'm about to get tested with grip strength, just like at the carnival, but it tells you way more than winning a stuffed animal, doesn't it?
Yeah, I should have thought about that. I could have give you a stuffed animal offer if you get the big grip. But yeah, as we talked about in the first half of the show, grip strength can tell you a tremendous amount of information about your power, your athleticism. That's why they use it in the MLB combine, the NHL combine, the NFL, all the combines, they test out your grip strength because it's a good indicator of power, but it's also a good indicator if there's something going on with you that you need to be concerned about. Like in the first half of the show, I gave the example of the baseball player that had significant decreased grip on his dominant side compared to his non-dominant side. And then we also saw significant differences in the 3 positions that we test, especially our athletes, especially our throwing athletes. We test them with their arm by their side, with the arm in the throwing position, which means the shoulder's at 90, the elbow's at 90, and then the arm's also straight overhead. Straight overhead grip strength should be about 2% stronger than the arm by your side. Doesn't always happen, so that's an indication of maybe something to work on with our athletes. As I said earlier in the show, I had that baseball athlete that as he did his 3, we always test 3 times for each grip so we get an overall average. On his 3rd time, it was about half the amount of strength as the first 2 because he had some shoulder pathology and he was getting sore and weak, from lack of endurance in that shoulder because of the pathology. So,
what is shoulder pathology?
Just means you have some kind of diagnosis going on. So maybe a rotator cuff injury, an impingement injury, some kind of pain in the shoulder, something that's causing you pain in the shoulder. Basically,
it's there for a reason.
It's there for a reason, and that's why we're treating him with physical therapy to get him better with that. And he's about 80% back to normal within 2 weeks, and I expect him to be 100% within the next 2 weeks as well. So it's one of those things you don't want to just ignore and let linger. You want to pay attention to, get it addressed right away. The sooner you come to see us at MRS Physical Therapy and Cranberry Physical Therapy, and then the new Cranberry Physical Therapy Sports Clinic that we have just opened up, the quicker we'll get you better and back to whatever activity that you need to do. So let's go ahead and we're going to test Eddie here. Eddie, are you right or left-hand dominant?
Left, but...
Do you throw disc golf with your right or left?
Right.
Okay. How about bat, throw a ball?
Both.
You do right and...
when I did, yeah.
How about throw a ball?
Both.
Okay.
So you're one of those ambidextrous athletes. So
Well, my left shoulder's destroyed, so we're going to do everything right.
okay, well
No.
we're gonna test both sides so we get an indication of what's going on left compared to right here,
All right. I got-
to the best
I
that
got
you, the best that you can tolerate.
The left got the pathology. That's
You don't
why
have,
I
you
asked
don't
you
have
about
like a
that.
titanium shoulder or anything, do you?
Not yet.
Okay, because
No.
some people are out there getting shoulder replacements now, and I'm
No.
seeing that more and more often, which is, often the last resort, but it's not a bad option if you can't do anything and you're having a lot of pain. A lot of good outcomes with shoulder replacements. So anyway, so we'll test your left side first, and we're going to do arm testing by your side. So
Okay.
if you're watching at home, please try to watch on Facebook Live. You get a great visual with this demonstration. If you're just listening on the radio, right now we have Eddie's elbow by his side with the elbow bent at a 90-degree angle, and I'm handing my grip strength tester.
What can you tell me what number I should get to not be deeply embarrassed? Just give me that C- number.
Yeah, so as we talked about earlier in the show,
As I
there's
try and
a
cheat.
lot of normative data. We're going to compare Eddie's expectations to his age. So for Eddie, for the age category that he's in, he should go between the 76 and 89 pounds of pull or grip strength.
Oh, okay.
And
No
we
chance.
expect that from his strongest side, but we'll test his weak side and we'll compare it
Ready?
to one versus the other. Go ahead
Can I
and
put
squeeze.
my hand under it?
No. Go ahead and squeeze as hard as you can and relax. Good. All right, so this is Eddie's non-dominant side. That's pretty good. That was 85.
Was it really?
Yeah, you're right there. Now we're going to
Oh.
3 times through the left hand.
I'm not even taking the
so
midterm
squeeze it
after
again.
this quiz.
Squeeze it again. Squeeze. Hard as you can. Good, and relax. All right, and consistent, 82. That's what we
82.
want to see. We want to
That's what
consistency.
happens when
And that's
you
why we test this 3 times.
Stop
and
showing
third
up.
time, and relax. So 82 again. So for his left side, what did you say,
85, 82, 82.
82. And now we're going to do his dominance. Well, we're going to do his right hand. We're not sure which side's really dominant or non-dominant on Eddie at this point in time.
Ready?
Go ahead and squeeze as hard as you can and relax. And that was an 84.
Ah.
So you are looking pretty ambidextrous.
I'm
We're going to
even
test it 3
keeled.
times.
I'm
even
even
keeled. And relax.
Yeah.
That was another consistent 84.
Okay.
So now I know you're giving maximal effort because I see the consistency throughout here.
You see
That's
the
good.
veins popping out my neck.
And relax.
That's all I got, Coach.
85.
Same way I celebrated when I
So
get an 85
that
on
was
a quiz.
84, 84, 85.
Yeah.
So we saw a slightly increase on your right versus left, but you are pretty ambidextrous. Now we're going to test you on the right side throwing position. So now Eddie's elbow and shoulder at a 90-degree angle. So his elbow's at 90 degrees, his arm's by his side. His shoulder's at 90 degrees as well. So it's up in the air like he's throwing a baseball. If you're not watching, he's like throwing a baseball or football position, that kind of thing like that. Then he's going to squeeze and relax. So that was an 82. Do that again. Squeeze as hard as you can. Good. Let's see what we got. That was an 80. And again.
Starting to fade.
And relax.
You were looking down for a second. I almost reached up with
And-
the other hand and cheated.
And that was the 82 as well. So
Okay.
pretty good. You stayed consistent there on your right side. In that throwing position, not too bad. Now we're going to do the straight over the head position.
Okay.
We're going to stick with the right side because I don't want to whack your left shoulder out too much. Okay, so now Eddie's reaching his arm straight towards the ceiling, and he's doing the same grip strength. He's using our grip dynamometer here. That's what we call it. And squeeze as hard as you can. And relax. And that was a 78. Go again. And that was 80. And go again.
I am Thor.
And that was 76. So what we saw with you, Eddie, is that you got you were a little bit weaker with that arm overhead than arm and throwing position or arm by side.
Is that normal or is that?
It's not normal.
Cool.
Okay. We want to see you're happy that you're not normal.
No, it's what I expected.
What you expected. So especially with our athletes and people that are in good shape, we expect to see about 2% stronger with that arm straight up overhead versus arm by your side. So our throwers, our quarterbacks, our baseball players, anyone that's doing any kind
kind of overhead throwing, we would expect to see a 2% stronger in that arm overhead versus arm by side. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have a pathology or pain in the shoulder. Just it shows us that you have a little bit of fatigue. You're not as strong in that position. So if you came into me with some pain and discomfort, we'd be doing some exercises to strengthen you in those three different positions. Now, can you even get your left arm up over your head?
It makes a lot of noise, but yeah.
Okay. You want to try it on that side?
Sure.
I don't want you to get hurt,
Oh,
but
it's
go ahead and
not-
try it on that side there.
Workman's comp, Dale. Are you kidding me?
If
Injured
you don't
at
hear
work.
from Eddie for the next month, you know what happened.
All right.
All right, squeeze as hard as you can and back down. Oh, wow, that was impressive. You're really giving a strong effort. That was 95. You want to do that left
With
side
the
again?
bad shoulder?
Yeah. Squeeze and relax. And that was 86, and go again. So we're starting to see some fatigue here. And back down.
That's my trying hard face if you're watching on Facebook.
And that was 86 also. So what we saw with Eddie on that is his first effort was really good on that left side, but then we saw some pretty quick fatigue. And as Eddie described, and he detailed to you guys listening, he's got some shoulder issues on that left side. So as he tried to do that third pull, the second and third pull, it was more difficult for him to maintain that position. So he's fatiguing out pretty quickly. If he was someone that wanted to work on that shoulder, then again, we would work on that shoulder in those three different positions: arm straight up overhead, arm throwing position, and arm by your side. Because your rotator cuff muscles and your shoulder, your scapular muscles have to do different things in those different positions. So you can't just be testing your grip strength by your side. You should really be testing those three different positions. And that's what we do when we do our athleticism profiles for our throwers, our baseball players, our quarterbacks, and anyone that's doing any kind of throwing motion that wants to work on that strength and is and stability, especially with their scapula stabilizers.
How surprised were you of all of the data that has become available just from a hand strength test?
It's amazing in one way, but in another way, I know how important grip strength testing is. As I said earlier in the show, we test grip strength for all ages. We have normative data for 6-year-olds all the way up to 80 and 90-year-olds. And that as you get older, that grip strength data is actually indicative of your lifespan. There's statistics that show as you get older and you start to significantly lose your grip strength, it has a direct correlation of how long you're going to live. So it's very interesting information. Really, when you dig deep and looking at this information, it really can give you a lot of cool information.
Does the loss of grip strength correlate with the loss of other muscle strength in other parts of the body?
Typically it does.
What's
Which is nice. We can go ahead and sit back down again because I'm done the testing.
I'm exhausted.
Yeah, it does. But what's nice about the grip strength, it's a very simple test. I said, if you're watching, this is called a grip dynamometer. We have a kind of a specialty piece of equipment. So this isn't cheap. This is like $300 or $400. The piece of equipment that we have here that we use, but it's calibrated and it's very specific towards what we're trying to work on with our testing. We want the best equipment that we're using with our testing, so it correlates to retesting reliability. Meaning, if I retest you again, I'll get the same numbers. If I retest you again, in 6 months or a year, whatever it is, I'm using the same calibrated piece of equipment that's going to give us the best data. So, keep in mind, we can do this grip strength testing at all three of our clinics. MRS Physical Therapy, which is in Bridgewater, right in Stone Point Landing. And if you want to get a hold of us at the MRS Physical Therapy in Bridgewater, that number is 724-728-7550. The Cranberry office is on Route 19, right next to North Park Lounge, and that number is 724-591-8121. And if you want some of the sports special testing that we're doing, we are inside our new clinic that we just opened up May 1st. It's inside of Diesel Sports Complex. It's a 10,000 square foot indoor warehouse, so we have lots of room. And then there's also an outdoor football size field for us to replicate, all the sports testing that we're doing. So for example, we are now doing volleyball testing where I set up a volleyball net. And we use our vertical machine that we talked about earlier in the show. So I'm testing how high you jump, what your standing vertical is. Your vertical, it's called an approach jump. When you approach and you jump, how high you can go. Your block touch, which is standing, jumping up with two hands like you're trying to block that volleyball. And then we're also doing some speed and agility testing. And I have a brand new piece of technology that I just got in this week that attaches to your arm, and it measures how hard you're hitting the ball. So it measures your impact, your arm speed at impact of the ball, and how fast the ball is going to go as it comes out of your hand. So this is testing that's being done at the national level. No one else is doing it in the area, but it's called the Volleyball Performance Index, and it's being done by the highest level volleyball athletes. And there's a lot of great data for women's volleyball, especially. There's a lot of great volleyball statistics for what you should be at if you want to play at D1 level, D2 or 3 level.
The average at each spot.
What the average is, whether you're a libero, you're an outside, a right side, a middle, D-spec, whatever it is. We have a lot of great information we can compare that to. But really important, again, like I said at the beginning of the show, what I really want to do is I want to give the opportunity for people to get baseline measures so that when you're doing your sports performance, you're working towards those things, those goals that you want to do. If you're just going out there and doing sports performance, if you're not assessing, you're guessing is what I say. If you're not getting assessed for what your abilities are, then you're just guessing that it's helping. So these baseline measurements is really what's giving us nice validity for the sports performance activities that you're doing. And like I said, we can do it for all sports. We have, the tests are different, for each sport because each sport requires different things. Some are more upper extremity, some are more lower extremity. We have some common tests that we do for all the sports that inclusive of flexibility, strength, core, things like that. But then we break things down to more sports specific areas as we go through with our testing with our athletes.
We're getting ready to wrap up here in a couple of minutes. I've got a question for you, and I'm really curious, as a physical therapist, here in the next week or two, the Olympics start.
Oh, can't wait for the Olympics. Don't you love the Olympics?
Okay. You just lit up like the Joker.
Yeah.
When you watch the Olympics, do you watch it as a fan or do you watch it for the physiology?
I can't help but both. I mean,
Okay.
I've been a fan all my life. I love watching the Olympics since I was a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
But since becoming a physical therapist, just seeing the abilities, especially some of these, the track and field athletes. I love watching the track and field athletes, these jumpers, their ability to jump. So when I had the Cranberry Community Days come through this past weekend when I was testing a lot of verticals, I was surprised. My highest athlete that I tested, he's a junior Seneca Valley baseball player, and his vertical was 35 inches. Now, he is 6'6", so he's tall, so he's got some big springs on his legs.
Right, but still.
But he was jumping higher than some of these, I would ask every kid, well, what's your sport? So I can kind of gauge how high to set the vertical for.
Mm-hmm.
There are basketball players, there are ultimate Frisbee players, volleyball players. I tested a lot. I had divers come through. I had track and field jumpers, come through. What I was surprised is that this baseball athlete, killed everybody with his vertical, which just means he's got great athleticism,
Right.
Don't get me wrong. These volleyball players and the track and field jumpers, they had great verticals as well. I love watching the Olympics coming up and watching the jumpers, especially to see what they can do and just the power that they get, jumping, with their legs and stuff like that.
You know what the numbers are. Do you think the average viewer of the Olympics understands just how much freak better they're watching than the average human?
I think any athlete, anyone that's done any kind of athletic performance in high school realizes it, because they can see some numbers to compare. And, when you see, some of these guys are just genetically, composed differently than the rest of us, right?
Yeah.
And I don't care how good your trainer or sports performance is. These guys, some of these guys are just built differently. I mean, you see this in all different levels of athletes in all different sports. But when you see these people that are built differently, that are working, extra and doing all the things that they're supposed to do, really see their peak performance and just killing, these records. And you see them kill records that have been out for years and years, and they're just. That says a lot to how things are changing in sports performance, I think, because people have always had some genetic, differences in their abilities. But, how we're doing more research and science-based, things we're doing for our sports performance and knowing how to train athletes different and better. That's why we're seeing these records really being broken now. I think that's a big difference in what we're doing. And, MRS Physical Therapy, all three of our offices, I think we're right on the cutting edge for testing these athletes and then sending you on your way to work in your sports sports performance because, again, if you're not testing, you're guessing as far as what your abilities are. And we really want to be testing these athletes so you have a baseline, number one. Number two, we can really help mitigate risks of injury. I mean, that's really what I want to do. I want these people not to get injured in their sport. I mean, you get out there and you tear your ACL, you're done for the season and maybe your career even. You know, there's a very low probability of you returning back to your same level, and some people never even go back to their activity again. So we're trying to reduce the level of ACL injury through our sports metrics program that we're doing now. You know, and keep in mind, if you have a mild sprain, strain, or injury, you don't need a doctor's script to come see us. You can come through to see us through direct access. So if you have a mild sprain or strain, just give us a call. We'll get you in right away.
What's your favorite Olympic event?
Oh,
because when you lit up like a little kid at Christmas. That's just like me. I love the Olympics, but what's your favorite?
I love watching the relays because it's a team event and it requires a lot more coordination and skill than people realize.
It ain't
and
just
you don't
running.
realize it till you see people that have trained for years drop that baton. And you know, relays are really hard. I did relays in high school, and I can really appreciate. You know, you got a team effort. You got guys that have to be put together that perform well together. But that baton handoff, I mean, that's so crucial and key, and it is not easy to do. And as much as you practice doing it, you know, the blind handoff, man, that's tough, and it's fun to watch.
And when you see it done perfectly, it's like one person just turned into the other person without missing a step.
And when you see it done perfectly, it's just like everything else, like it makes it look so simple.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like, oh, he just handed it to him. Dale, wonderful having you here again today. Dale Reckless, MRS Physical Therapy. The reason I ask about the Olympics, because the stuff you were talking about today, I read up on the testing for Olympic athletes.
Yeah.
It's the same stuff.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. Yeah, so if anyone wants to get tested, please reach out to us. It's a lot of fun. It gives you some nice baseline measures, and everyone wants to know, well, how am I performing right now? I mean, I got these little kids coming up. They're 8 years old. They want to know what their vertical is.
They want to know their numbers.
Just as much as I have these 35-year-old, guys that want to see what their vertical is because they never got tested. And some were pretty impressive, to be honest. Some of these older athletes. So we test. Keep that in mind. We test older athletes as well as younger athletes. The older individual, they want to reduce their risk of injury. They want to keep performing, keep being active, whether it's at basketball or volleyball, whatever it is. We'll make sure we identify areas that you need to work on strength-wise or flexibility-wise so you don't get hurt and injured. Like I said, we have 3 offices in the area. MRS Physical Therapy, which is in Bridgewater, right in the heart of Bridgewater in Stone Point Landing. And that number is 724-728-7550. Cranberry Physical Therapy, which is on Route 19 right next to North Park Lounge. That number is 724-591-8121. And then the Cranberry Physical Therapy Sports Clinic, our newest clinic, we just opened up May 1st, is on Marshall Road, right off of Rowan, actually almost right behind North Park Lounge. And that is housed right inside a Diesel Sports Complex, which is a 10,000 square foot indoor warehouse that also has an outdoor football size field. They have all sorts of athletes coming through there. There was a Pirate player there yesterday doing batting practice. I'm not going to give his name, but there's Pirate players that come there. I got to watch them do some batting practice during the All-Star break. They've got the Riverhounds soccer that come out there. They've got pit lacrosse coming out there. They do flag football. They do all sorts of great programs out there. Come out and visit and check out that facility as well. It's a great facility.
Great seeing you again, Dale Reckless, MRS Physical Therapy. I didn't even get sweaty today. It's Teleforum.
Looking for that special home or wanting to sell yours? Let the Lisa Latham team, brokered by eXp Realty, help you. Hi, I'm Tank Latham, and our goal is to make you feel comfortable whether buying or selling. Lisa and I strive to make the process